We welcome you again to our children's series, a program that brings the children together with the parent in order that the children may be shaped in the fear of the Lord and become all that God ordained them to be. A program for parents to realize their responsibility in shaping their children to become all that God ordained from the foundation of the world for every child to become. And the success of every parent depends on what have you done in order that this child that is a special gift from God to you has been brought up in the fear of the Lord, has become shaped so that on that day when you stand before God, you'll be able to say, I cooperated with God and my child became what God ordained that child to become, and my child accomplished what God ordained for that child to accomplish. We must have seen it already in the program that every child is a special gift from God, and parents are agents of transformation in order to cooperate with God through prayer and through teaching and through showing the right example for the children to become what they ought to be. And in our program today, we are looking at Esther from tragedy to greatness, from an orphan to a queen, from misfortune to great blessings. Let's join together as we study the life of Esther. Let's open our Bible to the book of Esther. We are seeing how your life can start from a tragedy and you rise to prominence if you do the right thing or if the right thing is done to you. The book of Esther chapter 1. We start the book of Esther chapter 1 with a problem, a crisis. There was a crisis in the palace of King Xerxes, a Persian king. And what was that crisis? The crisis was that there was a queen raised to greatness, and on this day the queen was deposed from her position. From verse 1, this is what happened during the time of Xerxes. The Xerxes who ruled over 127 provinces, stretching from India to Kush. At that time, King Xerxes reigned from his royal throne in the citadel of Susa. And in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a banquet for all his nobles and officials. The military leaders of Persia and Media, the princes and the nobles of the provinces were present. A great king threw a great banquet. But on that day, something terrible happened in his family, and something terrible happened in his kingdom, and something terrible happened. A misfortune took place, a tragedy took place in his kingdom. In verse 9, Queen Vashti also gave a banquet for the women in the royal palace of King Xerxes. So Xerxes was giving a banquet, and the queen was giving a banquet. Verse 10, on the 7th day, when King Xerxes was in high spirit from wine, he commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him, Mehuman, Biztha, Harbona, Bigtha, Abagtha, Zethar, and Carcass, to bring before him Queen Vashti wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and noble, for she was lovely to look at. But when the attendant delivered the king's command, Queen Vashti refused to come. The king became furious and burned with anger. So there was a party going on, a great banquet that brought the nobles of this king. All the nobilities were there. And the king was excited. And the king wanted them to see the wife. And the Bible actually described that the wife was lovely to look at. He was proud of the queen. But the queen was also throwing her own party. And on that day, the queen decided, I will not come. She decided not to come. And what happened? The king summoned his advisor and asked them, this is what I wanted, but Queen Vashti had refused to come. She has disgraced me before all the nobles of this nation. And what happened? On that day, the advisor gave him an advice. Verse 19, if it pleases the king, let him issue a royal decree and let it be written in the laws of Persia and Media, which cannot be repealed, that Vashti is never again to enter the presence of King Xerxes. And let the king give her royal position to someone else who is better than her. The queen, lovely to look at, from a position of greatness, but something was wrong in her life. When a person is badly brought up, you can rise to great height, but you will come down. We are dealing with a queen here who had a problem, a character problem. A character problem that she could disobey when she wants. She was lovely to look at. She was in royal position, but her beauty entered her head. Her greatness entered her head. She told herself, I'm also a queen. I'm also throwing my own party. Let him remain with his own party. I continue with mine. When you are badly brought up, it does not matter the position you have risen to, you will come down. That is where we are starting with the story of Esther, from an orphan girl to become a queen, from her tragedy, where from tragedy she became a queen because something took place. Someone who was in position, royal position, somebody who was in greatness, came down because of her disobedience. What position are you now? You can rise and collapse if your life is wrong. You can rise and your greatness transforms you into a person who becomes proud. So in the bringing up of our children, in the building of people, we are trying to build them so that when they rise to the top, they will not fall down, they will not collapse, their life will not be ruined as a result of character deformity. A crisis took place. The disobedience of Queen Vashti led to her being deposed. Your disobedience will bring you down one day. If we do not raise up children and teach them to be obedient, and teach them to be humble, and teach them not to be arrogant, those children will be raised up. It does not matter where they will finally be in the society, they will rise and come down, because pride will bring any man down. Pride always comes before a fall. Vashti was full of pride, beautiful, in royal position, but lacked humility. Beautiful, in royal position, but lacked humility. And therefore, the advisor told the king, let a decree be issued that she will never be queen again, and let her position be given to someone better than her. We are studying Esther, someone who was better than Queen Vashti. In chapter 2, we're in chapter 2, verse 1. Later, when the anger of King Xerxes had subsided, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what he had decreed about her. Then the king's personal attendant proposed, let a search be made for beautiful young virgins for the king. They were looking for somebody who would take the place of Queen Vashti. He said, let a search be made. Let us look for beautiful young virgins. Let the king appoint commissioners in every province of his realm to bring all these beautiful girls into the harem of the citadel. Let them be placed under the care of Haggai, the king's eunuch, who is in charge of the women. Verse 4. Then let the girl who pleases the king be queen instead of Vashti. This advice appealed to the king, and he followed it. They were looking for somebody who would replace Vashti. They were looking for somebody who would become the next queen. And here, the first thing, beautiful young virgins. Beautiful, but a virgin. If we do not bring up our children in the fear of the Lord to the extent that they don't look at their beauty as object to be traded sexually, they will miss something in life. They were looking for beautiful young virgin. If you are beautiful and not a virgin, you will not rise to heights. You will not be chosen. We must bring up our children to hate sexual sin. We must bring up our children to protect their virginity. We must bring up our children to protect this precious thing that was given by God to be cherished, and not bring up children who make themselves object to be sexually used by anybody. Whoever wants them sexually, they give themselves to such a person. There was a search, and Esther was one of those who was picked. Chapter 2, from verse 5. Now there was in the citadel of Susa a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin named Mordecai, son of Jair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, who had been carried into exile from Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, among those taken captive with Joachim. Mordecai had a cousin named Hadassah, whom he had brought up because she had neither father nor mother. This girl, who was known as Esther, was lovely in form and features, and Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died. There was a double problem for Esther. The father died, the mother died, and there was a problem. She again had to leave her nation and taken to exile with her cousin brother Mordecai. She had lost her father, lost the mother. Young as she was, she had to travel miles going on exile. Have you reached a position in your life where misfortune had befallen you, maybe as a child, and you think that all is lost, all is gone? Are you in a state, maybe you have lost your parent, lost your father, lost your mother? That is the situation in which Esther was. But we thank God for the cousin brother who took her up. And the Bible says, from verse 8, when the king's order and edict had been proclaimed, many girls were brought to the citadel of Susa and put under the care of Haggai. Esther also was taken to the king's palace and presented to Haggai, who had charge of the harem. So what are we saying? Esther was beautiful to look at. And orphan as she was, she had decided not to give herself sexually to men. She didn't tell herself, after all, I have no parent. There is nobody who can rebuke me, who can correct me, who can discipline me. I will use my life the way I want. It would have been a double tragedy for her, losing her parent and losing her future. But Esther, cared for by the cousin, protected her life. And today, on that day, Esther was one of those who not only was lovely to look at, but was a virgin. She qualified and was taken to the palace. Lovely in form, lovely in future, but she never misused her beauty. There are many who have misused their beauty. There are many looking at themselves and say, after all, am I not beautiful? And they become proud. And instead of using that beauty as an object for worship, using that beauty for something wonderful, they ruin themselves because of their beauty. This girl adopted. So Esther is selected among the many. When the selection will be done, will you be one of those who will be selected? Because there is selection, there are selections that are always going on. Will your children be one of those that will be selected because you brought them up well? Will your children be one of those who will be selected because you helped them to protect that which was precious and not become ruined by this wicked world, ruled by wicked men who see every beautiful girl as an object to be used, who see every girl who may have lost the parent as an object to be exploited, not creatures of God to be protected. We continue the story of Esther. So she was one of those who was chosen, and one of the characteristics that made her to be chosen is that she had protected herself. She had kept herself away from sin. You may be going through a misfortune, but do not lose your relationship with God. Do not turn God against you, because your future will depend on whether you have protected your life so that God can look at you and favor you. We continue. So Esther was taken to the palace and entrusted to Hegai, who had the charge of the harem. Verse 9, the girl pleased him and won his favor. Listen to a number of things about Esther. That Esther pleased this eunuch, this person who was in charge. She pleased the man. The girl pleased him and won his favor. Your beauty may make you to be selected, but whether you have the favor of people or not depends on your character. People may look at you. You may even have a wonderful intellectual power, intelligent, but your character can ruin you. Intelligent but proud, intelligent but arrogant, intelligent but disobedient, beautiful but immoral, beautiful but proud, beautiful but arrogant. When the right character is lacking, you will not be able to please people no matter how gifted you are. Your giftedness is like the flower. We do not eat flowers, but your character is like the fruit. You may attract people and they come close to you, but whether you will please them or not depends on your character. This humility, this obedience, this gentleness, this purity, this child that is humble. So the Bible says that Esther pleased Haggai, who was in charge of the palace. What has happened is that the cousin brother had taken this child and built the child in character, so that wherever the child found herself, people will be pleased with her. She will win the favor of people because people will look at her character and say, this child is well behaved. It is your behavior that pleases people, not your looks. You may be intelligent, but if your character is wrong, you will please no one. So she pleased him and won his favor. And the Bible says, immediately he provided her with her beauty treatment and special food. Immediately. There were many girls that have been selected. But because Esther won the favor of this person, pleased this person, immediately this man concentrated on Esther to help Esther and to treat Esther in a special way. Whether people will treat you as special or not depends on whether you have been well brought up. If we do not bring up our children well, they will have problem in future. Wherever they go, they will be rejected. And some may be saying they have the spirit of rejection. It is not the spirit of rejection. It is character distortedness. A proud child, an arrogant child, a disobedient child, a child that is uncaring. Immediately he provided her with her beauty treatment and special food, and says, and he assigned to her 7 maids selected from the king's palace, and moved her and her maids into the best place in the harem. Immediately they provided all she needed. Immediately provided special food for her, and immediately this orphan girl who had lived serving maybe all her life, who had lived missing her parent, who has lived with no opportunities in court, she is now being served by 7 maids. Your character will take you very far, or your character will bring you down. Esther was a girl of noble character, obedient, humble, able to please anyone who was in authority. Verse 10, Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. The cousin told her, don't tell anybody about your background. Don't tell anybody that you are even an orphan. Don't tell anybody that which nationality you belong to. Esther obeyed. Are you an obedient child? Are you a person that when the parents said, don't say this, don't do this, you will not do it? Esther was obedient. Taken and entrusted, she pleased the man, she won the favor of the man, and the man immediately provided all that she needed. Then the man moved her to the best place of the harem. An obedient child who labored to please will always be favored. We are looking at Esther. Why was she better than Queen Batsy? What King Vashti lacked is what Esther had: the power to please. While Queen Vashti was a disobedient, badly brought up woman, Esther was a girl that was obedient. Your humility, your obedience, your character will take you very far. And in the building of people, we are not concentrating on the outside. We are concentrating in shaping their character so that whoever look at them will be pleased and will favor them. That is the story of Esther, an orphan who decided, I will be obedient. An orphan who decided, I won't be arrogant. An orphan who decided, I will not mess up with my life. An orphan who decided, this is my cousin brother who have decided to take care of me. I am going to be obedient to him. So, the obedient Esther, she refused, she did not reveal her background. Verse 12. Before a girl's turn came to go in, so all these girls were gathered, and they were going to the king one by one. They were actually supposed to take beauty treatment for 1 whole year before they appear in the presence of the king. And any of them who will please the king will be chosen to become the queen. It needed a whole year to prepare themselves to appear before the king. 1 whole year. Verse 12, before a king's turn came to go, a girl's turn came to go into the king's Xerxes, she had to complete 12 months of beauty treatment prescribed for the women. And this is how she would go to the king. Anything she wanted was given to her to take with her from the harem. Whatever makeup she wanted, whatever decoration she wanted, whatever you wanted to put on, you were given. In the evening, she will go, and in the morning return to another part of the palace. Let us look at verse 15. When the turn came for Esther, the girl Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king. She asked for nothing other than what Haggai, the king's eunuch, who was in charge of the harem, suggested. The other girls asked for all sorts of makeups. They asked for all type of clothing to put on to go and please the king, but they did not know the king. One man knew the king, Haggai. Do not pretend that you know all. If you have a teachable spirit, if you are humble, people will make suggestions to you. People will teach you, and people will show you the pathway that will lead to your success. But if you pretend you know it all, you will fail. So here, Esther, while all the girls were asking for lists of things to change their looks, to dress wonderfully, as they called it, you can actually dress to please and actually become disgusting to the person that you want to please, because you don't even know what the person wants. This eunuch knew what the king wanted. And because Esther was obedient, because Esther was humble, because Esther was not proud, Esther told herself, I am but a poor orphan. I do not know even how to dress. I do not even know what makeup will please the king. I will just be humble and be led. And the Bible says, she took nothing other than what Haggai suggested. The next phrase, and Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. From tragedy to become a girl that whoever saw her favored her. A girl that was humble, a girl that was obedient, a girl that could be taught, a girl that could be led, a girl that told herself, I know nothing. They need to tell me what to do. Not a girl who says, I know everything. Nobody should tell me anything. If you are such a girl, you are just proud. If you are such a boy, you are proud, and you will ruin your life. You will never have the favor of people. Verse 16. She was taken to King Xerxes in the royal residence in the 10th month, the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. Verse 17. Now the king was attracted. What was the outcome? The king was attracted more to Esther more than to any of the other women. The other women put all the makeup, all their makeups, put all the new dresses. Some may even have dress and open up to entice the king. Dress and show the part that they ought not to show, thinking that when the king will see them, the king will be sexually attracted and the king will surely put them. Esther dressed as she was instructed, as was suggested to her. She put on the perfume that she was instructed to put on. And what is the outcome? A child who listens, a child that is humble. The king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. They were all virgins, they were all beautiful, but there was another test, the test of character, the test of obedience, the test of humility, the test of saying, I'm but a child, I do not know what the king wants. Teach me what the king wants and I will do it. Are you a humble person that can be taught? Many people always pretend that they know everything. And unfortunately, with their unteachable hearts, they mess up with their life. A person who will go far must be a student all his life. You can be taught. You can listen. You can be told, don't put this. Don't put this dress. Most children don't obey their parent in the type of dresses they put on. And as a result of that, they mess up their lives. Esther was not like that. If you are an obedient child, a humble child, you will attract, you will draw the favor of people. So Esther was obedient. She had not revealed her nationality as the cousin had told her, and while being taken by care of by this eunuch, she equally obeyed the eunuch. The eunuch said, this is what I think you should use. She took the suggestion of the eunuch like a command. She was not a child that argues with the parent, not a child that argued with her supervisor, not a child who was proud, but a child who knew, I will learn. I want to be led. So because Haggai knew what the king wanted and Esther obeyed, the outcome, Esther was chosen as the queen. And a great banquet was thrown for her. And the Bible says it was called Esther's banquet. From an orphan, having lost the parent, lost the father, lost the mother, lost her nation, and here we see her, the crown being put on her head. she lost everything except her God. She lost everything, but decided, I will not mess up with my life. I will not justify and mess up with my life. I will be obedient. I will keep my virginity. I will keep my beauty. And finally, we see what happened to her. Esther finally is crowned the queen. Let's see her life as a queen. Because there are many people, when they rise to the top, they actually forget what took them to the top. Did Esther become proud when she became a queen? Chapter 4. There was a crisis. A man called Haman wanted to destroy all the Jews. From verse 1, Mordecai, the cousin brother of Esther, learned about what was being planned to destroy all the Jews. From verse 1, when Mordecai learned of all that had been done, he tore his robe, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city wailing loudly and bitterly. Then he went right to the palace, the entrance of the palace. He reached the gate. Verse 4, when Esther's maid and eunuch came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes to him to put on instead of his sackcloth, but he would not accept it. Then Esther summoned Hadad, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to attend to her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. She could have told herself, after all, I'm not the one being troubled. Esther did not forget her cousin brother who brought her up. There are many who rise to the top and they forget the ladder on which they climb to reach the top. Such people will definitely fall. Esther's character was such that when she learned that her cousin was troubled, she was distressed, she was troubled, she was moved. There are many who rise to the top and forget about their parents, forget about their caretaker. After all, they have become kings, they have become queens, they have become great people in the world. They can no longer listen and they can no longer remember what they were. That was not Esther. Esther was a woman of character. So they went and inquired of Mordecai. And verse 7, Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money. He explained. Then verse 8, he also gave him the copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show Esther and explain it to her. And he told him to urge her to go into the king's presence, to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. Mordecai told Esther, there is a plan to kill all the Jews. There is a plan to annihilate all those who are Jews. And the edict was shown to her. And he said, ask Esther to go to the king. Verse 9. Hadad went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, all the king officials and the people of the royal province know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that he be put to death. The only exception is for the king to extend the gold scepter to him and spare his life. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. What was Esther doing? Esther was thinking about her security. Esther was saying, I may go and die. Verse 12. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. The cousin brother who had brought her up told her, you are in danger. Don't think that you are the only one who escaped. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance from the Jews, for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. He was telling Esther, you must do something. Stop thinking only about your security. And he said, and who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this. An orphan brought to royal position for a purpose. You may have been raised up for a purpose, and you sit down only thinking about yourself. Raised up for a purpose, and you are only thinking about your security. You need someone in your life to stir you up, to tell you were born for a purpose. You did not die with your parent because there is a purpose for your life. You have come to royal position for a purpose. When you don't have someone in your life who will tell you were created for a purpose, you have been educated for a purpose, you have risen to royal position for a purpose, you will mess up your life. Verse 15, then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day, and I and my maid will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. We are looking at a girl who continued to obey, and to obey this man who had brought her up, who is not telling her, you must risk your life for your people. There was a lot that was at stake here. The enemy wanted to annihilate all the Jews, all the people of Israel, so that the Messiah will not come. And God had raised an orphan girl, protected her, raised her up, and finally she finds herself in royal position. And finding herself in royal position, she was about to make the worst error of her life by thinking only about herself. And the same person who raised her up told her, you were raised up for a purpose. You were not raised up for yourself. You were raised up because God has something on his heart for you. Children are built up for a purpose. Children are not built up just to sit down and be thinking only about themselves. If parents are not there to tell the children there is the call of God for your life, there is the purpose of God for your life, they will be raised up and they will miss it, and on that day they will regret before God. But we see Esther here. Esther said, go gather the Jews, fast for me. I and my maid will fast. The first thing she thought about was fasting. What had happened? The cousin brother, as he was bringing her up, taught her how to fast. And she knew that that was the weapon to move God. And when she went to the palace, what had she done? She converted her own mates and started building them up to the extent that she now has a team with which she could fast. She did not go and just be enjoying the luxury of the palace. She started preparing a team. She did not know it in her heart. She may just have been obeying following the routine she saw when her cousin was raising her up. The routine prayer, the routine fasting, then the preaching of the word. And finally, she now has a team to fast, to move the heart of God, to touch, to move the king. Have you risen to royal position and forgotten the basic thing that you were taught? Are you teaching the children so that when they will grow up, there are certain things that they cannot depart from? Have you brought the children to this position that the children know, irrespective of what I become, these are the things that cannot be negotiated in my life. I am not there to live for myself. I am there because I was created for a purpose, and I will live for that purpose, and I will accomplish that purpose. I am in the palace. I will win my mates. I will win the workers of the palace, and I will train them in order that together we may form a team to accomplish the purposes of God. That is Esther. She had been brought up to know the life of fasting. She was about to miss it. When children grow up at a particular time, they can miss it. Somebody will need to remind them. You should know why you were raised up for such a time as this. You will always have that person who brought you up to monitor, to know whether the purpose for which you were built up, you have missed it, you have lost it. Many children, many people have been built up, God raising them up for a purpose, and finally they have missed it. Built for the purposes of God, built to accomplish something great for God, but finally they are lost in the world because at a particular time they got dissociated from that man, that person that was building them up and building them up for a purpose. They become independent and go their own pathway, and finally they are well equipped in royal position, in greatness in the world. Apart from one thing, there is nothing of God in their lives. We build up children in order that they will accomplish something for the Lord. So she had been taught the power of fasting. So Esther went into the presence of the king. Esther went into the presence of the king, and the king asked Esther. Finally, Esther discovered the Lord favored her before, because the king extended the scepter to her, so she was not going to die. Verse 5, chapter 5, verse 2. When the king, when he saw Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her. Again, it is because the king was pleased with Esther. The king was pleased with Esther. What will take you far is this fact that people are pleased with you because of your character. It will rescue your life. The king was pleased with her and extended the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched it. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even to have the kingdom, it will be given you." That is what a child that has been well brought up, what you want, you will get. The king is saying, even to have my kingdom, I am ready to give you, because he was pleased with Esther. What you want, you may never have it, because people are not pleased with you, and they are not pleased with you because of your distortedness. They are not pleased with you because of your wrong character. They are not pleased with you because you are arrogant. They are not pleased with you because you are proud. They are not pleased with you because you are a troublemaker. They are not pleased with you because wherever you go, you bring problem. They are not pleased with you because you are disrespectful. When the king saw Esther, the king was pleased, and Esther told him. Esther said, listen to the word of Esther, the word of a person who is humble. Verse 4, Esther said, if it pleases the king. One of the greatness of Esther was humility. A humble character that does not say, I want this. Was still, when she's told what to do, she disobeyed like Vashti. Esther said, if it pleases the king. If it pleases the king. Let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him. Vashti prepared her banquet. Now Esther is preparing a banquet for the king. Are you the person that somebody, by just listening to the way you talk, you are a commander, you command, you do not know how to beg? The first time, that even when the king went and asked, Esther says in verse 7, my petition and my request is this: if the king regard me with favor, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman come tomorrow to the banquet I will prepare for them. She prepared the first banquet. She is now preparing the second banquet. She wanted the king to be extremely happy before she present her request. Proud children, when their parents are angry, that's when they present their request. When they have made their parents very angry, then they start telling their parents, I want this, I want this, I want this. Esther prepared the first banquet. And she did not force, she was not forcing the king, she was begging the king. The power of humility. A commitment to please. A commitment to say, before I open my mouth and ask something, I must be very, very sure the person from whom I am asking is pleased with me. Are you a child? Are you a person that you have grown up and by your character people are pleased with you, so that when you speak, what you desire people will give you? Let's go a bit. Esther. We see Esther, if you are pleased with me. Finally, the person who was to destroy the Jews was himself destroyed. But let's just see one or two other things about this Esther. She has grown up to royal position, but she had not put on pride. She had not become the devil. Because pride is the manifestation of a person who is being controlled by the devil. Are people always pleased with you? Let's see again in chapter 8 how Esther is presenting a request to the king. Verse 3. Again, Esther again pleaded with the king, falling at his feet and weeping and begging him. Esther is pleading. Esther is falling at the feet of the king. Esther is weeping. Vashti will never do that. She was proud. She begged him to put an end to the evil plan of Haman, the Agagite, which he had devised against the Jews. Look at verse 5. Esther again said, if it pleases the king, if he regard me with favor and think it right the right thing to do, and if he is pleased with me. The words of Esther, she is begging, she is pleading, she is telling the king, I am not forcing it on you. That's what humility is. Every humble person will rise to the top. She was telling the king, I don't have the right. And finally, we see Esther introduce the cousin brother to the king, and the Mordecai became the second in command in this kingdom as a result of the connection. He had exposed a plan against the king, and Esther gave it, and it was recorded. And one day we see Mordecai. We have the king, Xerxes. We have the queen. We have Mordecai. Esther never forgot the fact that she was brought to royal position because somebody had raised her up. Never forget what you were. Never forget the fact that it is your parent who labored to raise you up. Don't tell yourself, now I have grown up, I will listen to nobody. Don't tell yourself, I become a queen, I will listen to nobody. Don't tell yourself, I become a minister, I will listen to nobody. That is pride that will finally ruin you. Pride that will finally ruin you. Do not be ruined by your pride. Mordecai was promoted. Esther continued to listen to Mordecai, and here we now see Esther and Mordecai teaming up to rescue the people of God. The people of God would have been annihilated, and the Messiah will never have come, and you and me will be lost forever. But an orphan girl who kept herself pure, an orphan girl who was obedient, an orphan girl who was humble, an orphan girl who was ready to risk her life, an orphan girl who, out of all the misfortune, rose up to the top. And even when she was at the top, continued to be humble. And as a result of that, all her requests were constantly being granted. And today, you and me have the Savior, because the Jews were not destroyed. We raise up children and we raise up people to have the right character, and as you have the right character, you will be favored, you will be blessed, you will have all what you request for, you will be accepted wherever you are. As you have the right character, you will be a source of blessing, and as you have the right character, God will use you to accomplish something in His purpose. Be humble, be obedient, get focused, and do not forget that God picked you from somewhere and God built you for a purpose. Let God use you to accomplish that purpose. And many people on that day will say, in spite of the fact that there was a misfortune in your life, you kept yourself, and today we are saved because of you. From a tragedy to the throne, from an orphan girl to the throne, because the right character was imparted into her. Be an Esther who is ready to risk your life, and who knows why you have been raised up at such a time as this. And you'll be surprised how what God will do in your life, and how God will use you to accomplish great things for Him and be a blessing to humanity and to His purpose here on earth. From a tragedy to greatness. May God bless you.